Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Laura Schifrin, and I'll call the meeting to order of the Planning Board of September 9th, 2024 at 6:35 p.m. We're a little late, sorry for the delay. We don't need a roll call vote, but you can introduce yourselves.
Okay, Carol Hofstas.
Lance McNally.
Robert Terrier.
Pat Conchik. Andrew Shepherd.
And Laura Schifrin. If you will join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to thank all of our veterans, as well as all of our military currently serving, and all of our emergency first responders. Appreciate you. The meeting is being recorded and then can be viewed on the Town of Townsend YouTube channel. I do not have any additions to the meeting tonight, but I will say that we're going to be cutting the agenda short. Beth is not able to be with us this evening. 1.5, approval discussion of the draft of the August 26, 2024 meeting minutes, and I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of August 26, 2024.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Lance. Any discussion? Hearing, seeing none. Robert, any comments?
Fine.
Fine, thank you. Take a vote. All in favor of approval of the minutes of August 26, 2024. Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say no. Okay, thank you so much. Approved. 1.6, the administrative report.
Do we have time to read it?
Yes. We have 6:45 Sarah appointment.
Okay, Nelson Yu began his post as town administrator as of 26th August. Welcome to him. If applications, anticipated applications, 27 Scales Lane ongoing, request for certificate of completion pending, waiting for board approval. 22 Main Street ongoing. The board extended the special permit to October 7th, 2024 by unanimous vote at their July 22nd, 2024 meeting. 108 Fitchburg Road, planning board decision to grant special permits and stormwater management permits signed and SM permit issued. Special permits are in the appeal period. 2 site visits and compliance. 98-100 West Meadow Road, owner has been advised that the stormwater management permit is required. 108-110-112 West Meadow Road. 108 West Meadow Road, license to enter agreement received and on file, waiting on owner to request certificate of completion. Campbell Farm, OSPD, last residential dwelling under construction, request for stormwater certificate of compliance ongoing. 94 Fitchburg Road, three-wheeler road, not complying with the stormwater management. 8 construction phase inspection reports, not in complying with SM8 monthly construction phase inspection reports. 5 Turnpike, not complying with SM8 construction phase inspection reports, waiting for project status update from permittee. And then miscellaneous. Planning board liaison Chas Sexturani resigned from his position on September 5th, 2024. We will inform the board of your new liaison once the appointment is confirmed. New flood maps in the Nashua watershed ongoing. The planning board will be working on new zoning bylaws for spring annual town meeting 2025. Master plan implementation ongoing. Discuss at the 8/26/24 board meeting and updated tables of the master plan. HMP MVP implementation is ongoing. Discussed at the 8/26/24 board meeting and updated tables of the plan. The 2020 HMP MVP plan update action items. Needs project management lead, grant funding will need to be updated this year to help the town avoid a lapse in its approved plan status and grant eligibility when the current plan expires at the end of year 2025. Accessory apartment bylaw and state law compliance ongoing. Action items, Joe Boyle, MRPC, partnered with town to revise 145-36 accessory apartment in residential districts, draft a new ADU local bylaw to comply with the state law. Non-discretionary site plan review bylaw ongoing. Joe Boyle, MRPC, partnering with town to write and adopt a new non-discretionary site plan review. MBTA, communities law zoning compliance ongoing. Joe Boyle, MRPC, partnering with town. Action items, finalize public hearing dates, finalize District 3 MFOD overlay district, submittal of draft MFOD bylaw and overlay district to Attorney General and the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities for review, waiting for board approval. Planning board member SharePoint resource folder serves as a resource library and includes information for new members, update for veteran members, and self-paced learning opportunities. And finally, Townsend Fitchburg Commuter Shuttle, all services on demand only. Riders book 1 day in advance of pickup from both shuttle stops, Town Hall of Fitchburg Intermodal. The flyer is on the website, submitted by Beth Paxson.
I would just like to say as chair of the planning board that we are very grateful to the years of service that Chaz gave to us as liaison, as well as a previous planning board member, as well as the Townsend Housing Authority, as well as the Townsend Housing Trust, and his years as a selectman. I believe he was the glue that held us together for about 5 or 6 years, actually, with the administration of the town hall. Katie, I see that you're on. We're almost at 6:45. Would you like to start? Hi, Katie.
Whatever works for you guys. You let me know. I'm here as long as or when you need me. So.
Okay, well, we can do you next. We can do you now, actually. Okay.
Okay. Do you want to say anything or you want me to kind of just jump in? It's your guys' meeting, so I don't want to make assumptions.
No, you can just jump in and with whatever updates you have, and then the board will have any questions if they have them.
Perfect.
Okay.
Well, thank you for allowing me to be here to speak to you guys tonight. My name is Katie Pade. I'm a floodplain management specialist within the Flood Hazard Management Program within DCR. We are the state coordinating agency of the National Flood Insurance Program. So the reason that I'm here tonight is to talk kind of a little teeny bit high 10,000 foot level background on the National Flood Insurance Program. But then Townsend is actually one of the communities in the Nashua River watershed who's receiving new flood insurance rate maps in the next year. So I'm just going to give a little update on those maps and then what the community needs to do in order to remain compliant and good in the program when those new maps go into effect next year. So if that sounds good, I'll give a quick 10,000 foot high level overview because sometimes I think it helps to give a little bit of background. So the National Flood Insurance Program, or NFIP, it's a voluntary program that communities voluntarily join, and they agree to adopt and enforce at least the minimum regulations as specified by FEMA. And then in return, flood insurance is made available to everyone in the community. So Townsend joined back on, I have the date right here, it's on August 2nd, 1982. So it's been quite a few years, quite a few decades the community's been within the program. So as I mentioned, to join the program, you have to adopt and enforce regulations. So in Massachusetts, those minimum regulations are in 3 different locations. The first is they're in state building code. Second is they're in the Wetlands Protection Act. And the third is that there's a portion of them that are in your local bylaws and ordinances. And that's what I'm going to be talking about here tonight. So those regulations that are in your local bylaws and your ordinances, those apply to the 1% chance flood, and the areas mapped as the 1% chance flood by FEMA on their flood insurance rate maps. And those are the maps that are going to be updated that we're going to talk about in just a minute. The only other thing I wanted to note before we move on talking about those maps is just a little bit about flood insurance, because as I mentioned, by participating in the program, you're allowing anyone in your community to purchase flood insurance. So through the National Flood Insurance Program, as a participating community, anybody can purchase that in your community. It doesn't just have to be if they're in the floodplain or out. So that can be if they're on the top of the hill, if they're right at the bottom of the hill, right next to the river, if they're a renter, if they're a business owner, if they're the property owner, all that's available through the National Flood Insurance Program. And there are times when flood insurance is required, and that's if it is a condition of a federally backed mortgage. So if anybody has a federally backed mortgage or a loan or a lien or whatever it may be, they may be required to have flood insurance for the life of that mortgage, loan, lien, whatever it may be. So just a couple quick statistics before we jump into your bylaw. But you have 17 policies in place through the National Flood Insurance Program within the community, and that covers about 5.2 million in flood insurance coverage. And that's through the National Flood Insurance Program. There is obviously private flood insurance available. I don't have any information on that. That would all be private through that, that homeowner, that renter, that business owner, and their insurance provider. That's just the 17 policies is what's through the National Flood Insurance Program. And all I have is that high level aggregate number for that as well. So that's my question.
On the flood insurance policies through the national, do they tend to be more cost effective than privately, or do you not know that?
So it varies. Generally, that is the trend, but I'm sure there's situations where that's not true. So again, that private flood insurance, that's private between, that person and that policy holder. Obviously that's the same thing with federal, but the federal, at least you can get that high level aggregate numbers. We would never know this exact policy at this house is this much, but we know, for example, there's 17 policies in place. There's 5.2, million worth of coverage. So we know that amount of level as well. But typically, with the asterisks, take it with a grain of salt. The national coverage would be more affordable for somebody than through private, but there's always exceptions to that. So, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, Townsend is part of the Nashua River watershed. So again, those regulations are enforced everywhere mapped as FEMA's that 1% chance flood. That's the flood that FEMA chose to use for this program many years ago, back in the 60s when it was created. And so FEMA updates those maps periodically. So as part of the Nashua River watershed, those new maps are expected to become effective next year. So part of that, the community will need to update your local regulations to make sure that you're compliant with the program. And there's two parts in that. So the two things that we were looking at, for everybody who didn't see that before, our office had provided a review of Townsend's local floodplain district bylaws. I don't know if everybody saw that beforehand. I can certainly send it again to either Jessica or Beth, who I coordinated prior to attending this meeting afterwards. But so a review was provided, and that was against our state model bylaw. And that state model bylaw has all the necessary pieces that need to be included to remain compliant in the program. So those additional pieces that are missing, there's just a handful, will need to be adopted in. And then the other part that needs to happen is the town will need to adopt that new map date. Now, here's where it gets tricky because we don't know what that new map date is. So what FEMA does is they issue what they call a letter of final determination, an LFD. We know how the government loves their abbreviation. So another abbreviation, right, the LFD. And they'll issue that 6 months prior to that effective date. And so we'll know at that time what that date is that needs to be adopted into your ordinance to replace your current 2010 map date, but we won't know that until that's issued. At this point, we are expecting through our coordination with FEMA for that to be that LFD, that 6 month kind of date, to be issued probably this December. And the reason we ask FEMA to do it then is because then it gives 6 months so all towns can get through, their spring town meeting before those maps go effective to adopt any changes. So what we're encouraging is we're working with communities now. They're working through the model bylaw, looking at incorporating those things. So then when that letter of final determination comes out and we know that official date, effective date, that can just be added in, and then everything's good to go through your amendment process and then eventually up to town meeting. So that's an overview of the process and what we're looking at. Do you guys have any questions about that or something I can elaborate on?
No, sounds good.
Okay.
Do you have a synopsis of like, through the years, since we've been involved or joined, whatever, since 1982, through the years, do you have a synopsis of perhaps if the areas have gotten bigger or smaller, or what are we looking at?
Yeah.
More restrictions or less?
Yeah, so it really varies per area and it varies per community. So there's kind of two factors that's going into that. So as each time these new maps are updated, obviously new map studies are being done, right? And so, for example, the maps that's going to become effective, there's been development that has happened since those previous maps that happened in 2010. And not only in Townsend, but within the watershed itself, because everything's at like a watershed level, right? And so because of that other development, the floodplain has shifted some. So you might find areas are bigger, you might find some areas are smaller, and you might find some areas are exactly the same. The other thing that's happening is technology, as in like LiDAR and all that topographic data is so much more accurate now than decades ago. So those are causing the maps where the new study is being done to be much more accurate of where the floodplain is. So there's areas where you'll even see, instead of like a smooth curve at the end of the floodplain, it's like little jagged lines because it's so accurate right down to that topographic level of where that study has shown that 1% flood to be. So it really varies kind of per area, per community, what's going on. FEMA has done detailed studies in some areas of the watershed. Others have been less detailed studies based off their funding and their process. I can't speak to that as those maps are made, they're created by FEMA. We're not involved in that. But there's certainly areas where the maps have changed. Again, some have gotten bigger. So you might have some people or properties or that were not in the floodplain before, but now they are. But then at the same time, you might have other areas that were in the floodplain and now they're not. And then you might have areas that are exactly the same and they haven't changed at all. So it just varies.
Okay, that was my question for clarification for others that might be listening, to see what's going on. Thank you.
Yeah. I will say that the current effective maps are obviously available online. You can view them digitally. And then also the preliminary maps are also available online and they're also available digitally. And so on, FEMA has a map service change viewer, GIS viewer, and you can actually toggle on and off the different layers to see where the floodplain has changed and like, from the effective to what would be effective in the next year. Which can sometimes help when you're looking at specific, or somebody's interested in a specific property. They can look right where they live or they're interested in.
Any questions from the board?
No. Oops, excuse me.
Robert?
Have you looked at Townsend specific changes?
Mm-hmm. So our office has done a review of your floodplain district bylaw. So there's a few things, again, this would be based off the state model bylaw that you need to adopt to change. I will note that state model bylaw has already been approved by the AG's office. So just if that helps at all for that knowledge. So a couple things as a quick highlight that I saw in that. One of the big things is communities are required to designate in their bylaw a floodplain administrator. And so we get a lot of questions about that. Like, what does that mean? Is it a staff person? Do we have to have funding to, fill this position? No, you don't have to, find funding to fill a position. So the floodplain administrator is typically somebody in the community that's just aware of what's going on in the floodplain. And they're really just the point of contact. So like if FEMA has a question, who do they contact? If our office has a question, who's that first person they contact? Typically, it's the building official. It could be like a conservation agent. It could be a town administrator. There's not really a lot of extra work associated with it, except for it's that first person of contact who's somewhat involved in what's developments going on in the community. So like designation of a floodplain administrator, you'll see that as one of the things that the community will need to adopt. There's a couple other requirements. There's some variance criteria that needs to be adopted. And again, there's sample language for that right in the model bylaw as well. There is quite a few FEMA required definitions that would need to be adopted in. Some things such as development and substantial improvement or a structure. And those definitions, as far as FEMA goes in this program, are different. Like you might already have those definitions in your overall, bylaws, but it's important that these meet FEMA's requirements. So like sometimes communities put those just in their like smaller floodplain district section, versus some add them to their overall bylaw and definition section, and they say, for floodplain management purposes only. That's totally up to, the community to decide how you want to implement that. As it's your bylaw, you can implement that how you want. But those definitions, are required and will need to be added as well. And there's just a few other small things like notification requirements. There's a requirement that just says that if there's any change in floodplain areas, that probably the proponent or the applicant or whoever, will notify FEMA within 6 months of those changes. So it's smaller things like that just needs to be added in. They're all requirements that the community's always had since they joined the program. The only difference is now that FEMA's requiring communities to have these in their local bylaws now moving forward. So, and that's all communities across Massachusetts are, adopting this model bylaw as well. So it's not just this watershed, it's not just you guys, it's all communities across the state. So.
Okay. And it's a mandate in order for anyone in our community to be able to purchase through the national floodplain.
Yeah, so those few particular things from the model bylaw that you guys are missing or the community's missing, those would need to be adopted into your floodplain district. Obviously, once that new map date is known, that would need to be adopted. But all that said, if the community were to not say adopt those, then you probably it would be through FEMA, but your good standing in the program might be at jeopardy otherwise, because that's the requirement for when those maps go effective.
That was basically my question.
Okay. I try to, it sounds scary some ways you say it, so I'm like trying to find the best, but I mean, that's ultimately what happens is to remain in good standing. You do need to adopt these minimum requirements and then also adopt the new map date. And that's all communities in this watershed. It's not just your community, it's all communities in the watershed receiving new maps.
Any other questions? Okay.
Does the local authority have any control in modifying any of these bylaws?
Yes, you absolutely can. You can typically what would happen would be adding any like additional standards. Those standards, they can be tricky because you obviously can't go anything more restrictive than state building code. And you obviously can't go less restrictive than anything required by FEMA as a minimum in the program. But you do have some flexibility. Where communities really take that flexibility is where they implement it locally. So for example, is it in their zoning bylaw? Is it in like a conservation commission type regulation? Whatever works best for your community, that's where you have that authority as well. Some communities even take a higher step standard and they want to go, oh, we want no more new development in the floodplain. Now that's very easy for a community that already has new development in the floodplain to say, oh, we don't want any more development. Not saying you guys have to do that because that is not a requirement whatsoever, but that is an option of a type of higher standard communities can and do adopt if they want to.
Okay. So these are probably changes that we'll have to have a public hearing for, and then this would go before our Springtown meeting.
Okay.
Coming up. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'll be in contact with you guys all and town staff as we move through this process. I don't want the town to feel alone at all, as FEMA picks out these new maps. We're here to assist you to make sure everything's good for when those maps go effective. So
I just had one question. So how does the homeowner know if they've never been in the floodplain and now these new maps put them in the floodplain? How would they know that?
Well,
like when they bought their house, they got a mortgage, they didn't have to, it wasn't in a floodplain.
yeah.
And now with a new map, they may not be aware that their house is in a floodplain.
You better look at the new map.
Well, that and probably the lender will notify you
great.
Absolutely.
I'm
So-
sure they're gonna go first, actually.
Yeah. So the lenders, definitely the one, if somebody has, say, that federally backed mortgage, that federally backed loan, lien, whatever it may be, and they're in the floodplain, that lender, they're the one that's going to contact them. They're the one responsible to tell them of that. You know, the community doesn't, you have no business with it, with their lien or mortgage or whatnot, right? Where the community may find more of an impact or find is that, say, somebody wasn't in the floodplain before and now they are, and then they come in because they want to an addition on their house. They come in for a building permit for whatever it may be, or they come into the Conservation Commission for some other thing, and they find out that now they're subject to certain regulations because they're in the floodplain that they weren't before. You know, regulations that are in state building code and things in Wetlands Protection Act. So that's where they would probably where the town would find that difference more is, you know. And some communities do a really big push of outreach to their residents. You know, when the new maps go into effect, they go, oh, you know, go to FEMA's website and see, are you in the floodplain or not? You know, they can do that. They can put stuff on your website. You can put flyers up. FEMA has tons of free, like, physical paper copy flyers that they'll ship to you for free that you could put with your town clerk, put in your town, put in a library, a post office. You could put stuff on the website. FEMA has a lot of that available if that was something that you guys wanted. Some communities take advantage of that. So
Well, thank you for that information. Anything else? Thank you so much for joining. And,
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, guys. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.
Hi, Joe.
Hello.
We'll get to you in a few minutes.
Confusing.
Are you here for?
Legend.
What do you
My
have?
sign off, I hope. That's what, the email was from Beth.
Well, do you have something for Brett?
That references last meeting, I think.
You were missing,
Laurie.
SM8 forms
that
that were
was-
submitted and
Oh.
I had,
That I
Addressed
missed?
at the last meeting. They made changes in the,
What do we have for 27 Scales Lane? I was supposed to have something for you signed off.
I was told that if we submit you were missing an as-built, which we had electronically, but they wanted a paper copy,
Okay.
which I submitted, I told them I was on vacation, I submitted today, unfortunately.
Oh,
And it went, but Beth and Jessica both knew this.
but neither were here.
Ah.
Okay,
And then two SMA, the stormwater, or the inspection forms, I was missing August and, September. But this was all emailed probably 3 weeks ago,
yes.
oh,
but they
you're,
wanted a paper copy for the record.
okay.
So it's not like the information was just submitted this morning.
If I recall, we got copies, attachments of this. However, there was no actual drawings in the attachment. It was more about the approval of the changes in the storm management, which reflected in the drawings.
Right, that's what you.
So we saw the paperwork, but not the actual drawings.
So you've had the actual drawings. What the board requested was a as-built.
That's correct.
Right, and that was submitted electronically.
Right, but we haven't personally, I don't think we've seen the as-built.
Like I said, it was emailed like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
I know.
I don't
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but
I have no idea.
Yes, can you check the portal and see if there's something?
There is a documents on that there. Hold on.
that was,
She was sick, so I'm trying, I just texted her, I'm trying to
Sure.
find out, but I don't have anything physically in hand to give you or for us to vote on or for us to sign. I don't.
we don't have any documents here to sign. Tonight,
No, I don't.
no.
Like it was supposed to be a boilerplate tonight because everything was, that's the way I took.
Everything's
way I
been
took her.
satisfied as far as I
That's the way I
know.
took her email. I have an
Right.
email from her. We've been emailing back and forth over the past month. And I'll be honest, I did ask Andrew today, why are we under correspondence? And Andrew,
I am abstaining from because Brett and I are in the fire department together, but he did reach out to me and ask for
I was
kind of
detail.
curious why we were just listed under correspondence and not, because we were listed on tonight's agenda.
No,
I have an agenda that we're listed under, absolutely. It was emailed to me.
4.1.
Right,
yeah, under correspondence.
Yeah.
So that means correspondence to me. It doesn't mean that we're signing or voting on something.
That's not the email I have, but Lori, I gotta be honest, I don't know how many more times I'm gonna come back. This is,
Well, this is not personal.
no, I know, but like, I've done everything that has been asked of me, and I feel I've done
Yes.
more than has been asked of me.
Yes, he's all set with the required compliance work. The board should vote to approve the certificate of completion for 27 Scales Lane after they review the as-built plans. We have done a staff review and everything is completed. Is Jessica in the meeting? No, she's not. Oh, please, God. I am going to, with everything that's been done, and I've seen you in enough meetings.
I have this.
I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the certificate of completion for 27 Scales Lane.
up on the screen. He's got a copy of the document, the as-built
The as-built.
drawing. Can we get that on the screen so everybody can say they saw it?
You don't have an email on here, do you?
No.
Is it in the folder?
I looked
It's
at
on
it.
the
Yeah,
folder.
it's in the folder.
I saw it before.
September 9th or another date?
I have it on the September 9th folder.
I'm looking for it. Which folder?
Hold on. So go to correspondence 4.0.
Yep.
Whoops, I'm sorry, I just clicked something I shouldn't click.
Oh, there it is.
Okay, and then there's Scales Lane Stormwater Certificate,
Right.
then you can go there.
For as-built, right?
And then there's a as-built, which is the third document down.
So the certificate, can I see, is that for each of us to sign? Maybe,
Well, usually we would
It's okay,
sign
the
it.
draft of the certificate is in the folder.
yeah.
That can be processed after the board votes. It will have to be recorded. So, just finding out when you can pick it up.
I'm good, like, there's no rush to pick up, I just wanna.
Oh, let's get the vote. Mr. Shank,
Oh, yeah.
So Beth has reviewed this and all the changes
And
have been made.
Jessica.
Right,
And Jessica. Okay,
okay, so I'll entertain the motion to approve the certificate of completion for 27 Scales Lane.
I move that we approve the certificate of completion for 27 Scales Line.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? I would just like to say, if there's something that has to be signed, you want to make it so that the chair can sign outside of the meeting? Or does everyone have to sign it?
I don't know anything about it.
I believe everyone's got to come in and sign the actual,
Well, Beth will let us know.
Oh, the physical one?
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's the certificate.
The certificate of completion has a signature line.
the document's in here.
Right here, right here.
Does it have
is-
everybody's signature on it?
It says Stormwater Authority Representative, whoever that is.
Oh, that's somebody from the planning board of stormwater.
The certificate.
We can figure out the signing
Yeah,
later.
okay,
Right.
It's probably someone.
okay, and he doesn't care when he has to pick it up, okay. Everyone in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Oh, abstain. There's one abstention and 4 ayes. Okay. Congratulations.
So no more monthly paperwork, that's all I want. I don't care when I can pick this up.
I don't know. I'm not gonna answer that question, but you just got approved.
Okay, perfect.
You're good.
All we need. I'm gonna put one on the head.
All right,
Just get
yes,
the
good
paperwork
idea.
whenever, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure Beth will email me or Jessica will email me the paperwork ready.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
As soon as they do the minutes on this and she hears this, it'll be
Okay.
out.
It'll be in our minutes anyway,
Okay,
so,
so
Great.
4.1 is done.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
All right, I'm not gonna keep you waiting, Joe. I was gonna try to get, under the correspondence thing, what if it's 4.2? Do we have to approve that, or is just that noticing us? Graves
I think we
Engineering
have to
said
re-
peer review.
I
It said
think what that
invoice.
means is you have to verify the charges or whatever. It needs,
It says an
What is in the
invoice.
portal? What does she have in the portal? With the invoice? Oh, no, Jessica
said-
can
is
sign
that
as the
the,
representative.
Graves Engineering.
We don't have to
Right.
sign the
No.
certificate.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, let me just ask
Whoops.
her.
there it is. Oh,
We approving the invoice?
Hold on.
there it is.
What is the peer review for?
It's to approve the work that was
108
done.
Fitchburg Road.
Right,
Oh, 108?
yeah, so they're
Oh, they-
consultants
they
to
pay.
us. And we have to, they can't pay them, I guess, until we approve it.
Have we ever approved an invoice before?
Huh?
Have we ever approved an invoice before?
No,
They just
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
No, we have,
We
confirm,
have?
confirm
Yeah.
where it was done.
Oh, okay.
yeah, because we have,
because then we get the quotes and then the
that's right,
applicant pays for it.
right,
Okay.
so.
Yeah, but she just has it down there as correspondence. It's not on the agenda. Does she want us to take action?
I'm asking her.
All right,
I don't know if we have to, do we?
correct.
Okay, and then the other weekend.
I mean, she should know what we needed.
Okay, well, I'm gonna say that we addressed it and I've asked her. And, you said that there was only 2 or 3 things? I've submitted it already. It's informational only for the board housekeeping. Thank you very much. 4.3, do you want to finish the housekeeping? Under correspondence.
You wanna read them, Lance? If you've got them in front of you?
All right. All right, we have, from the town of Ashby, notice of a public hearing on October the 15th at 7 o'clock. And it is a variance, to setback on Greenville Road. Legal notice from Pepperell, and it's a notice of a decision. The subject property was located at the intersection of Bemis Road and Lorden Lane is owned by Lorden Properties LLC. Special permit major site plan review and a land disturbance permit to permit the construction of a ground mounted solar solar array and
Right.
energy storage system. And then we have a notice from Shirley. And it's the decision from the ZBA for variance. Okay, the public hearing will be held, all right, public hearing was held on August the 5th. And it's for a maximum front yard setback on 182 through 188 Great Road. And so those are the correspondence from the abutting towns.
Okay, thank you very much.
Then we have,
That should be it.
okay,
Thank you. Joe, would you like to join us?
Very much so.
because you're inviting Mr. Shank to join us.
I just,
He has joined us.
I just had some paperwork I had to do in Selectmen's chambers, but until further notice, I'll be trying to fill in for with
Thank
Chaz
you.
as the liaison. Unfortunately, I may not be able to make everybody's meeting, but I request is anything that you would like me to bring forward, if you can reach out to me, I'd be happy to do the best I
Okay.
possibly can.
All right, thank
Or
you.
Chaz used to always bring us refreshments when he came to the meetings.
Well, I just said I
It's
won't
not
be
true.
making a lot of them. But I was in there and I just figured I'd let you know. But anything I
Okay.
can do to help, whatever, please reach out.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Chair, I've come prepared tonight with plans, compliance model outputs, memos, draft bylaw, but unfortunately not a pen. Can I borrow somebody's pen so I can take down your wisdom?
I got it, I got it.
All right. Why don't we begin with the memo, MBTA District 3? You know that you should have sent that out August 21st. This is the one. At the last meeting of the planning board, the decision was made to locate the multifamily overlay district in District 3, the more northerly location on Fitchburg Road. The issue with that is that the site was oversized. It modeled out to 340 units, and the directions you gave me were to come back with a smaller district.
Right,
I went back, we looked internally, and I want to advise you, I don't believe that shrinking the district is the right way to go. I'm advising instead of making the district physically smaller, to reduce the number of units that can be built there in a different way by adopting a district maximum. Okay, this is related to, I don't feel that we could, in a reasonable amount of time and at a reasonable cost, provide an appropriate professional level of care, shrinking down this district and deciding where to draw the line without it being a big, expensive, unnecessarily expensive project. When there is another option available, which I think is particularly well suited for this location. Instead of, we were about twice as big as we needed to be. Instead of cutting the existing district in half, we set a maximum that in this district, even though it is twice as large, has twice as many acres as would be necessary to meet your unit requirement, we leave the whole thing instead of cutting it back, but we adopt within the bylaw itself a statement that a maximum number of, I put 180 here, can be built within the district. Now, this would give developers options. They could still build at a density of 15 units per acre, theoretically, on half the site and build out the site to its potential maximum. And the other half would therefore not be, they wouldn't be able to build any more units there. Or they could build at a slightly lower, at a lot lower density and build on the entire site. Or they could do something in between. They could build part of it out at 15 units an acre and build part of it out as the small lot, single and two families, depending on what's best for the site conditions. But at the end of the day, the total number of units that could be built under the MFOD zoning would be capped at 180. This is what, on the back of the plan, this is the modeling, the compliance model, the MBTA compliance model. I have emailed back and forth with the MBTA office, and they have confirmed that my understanding of this is correct. If you look at in the blue DU/AC, that's development units per acre, it models out to 7.9 development units per acre. Now it needs to be 15. The thing is, like I said, they can still build at a density of 15. And they can still build 180 units at a density of 15 units per acre. They'd be able to do that, though, on half the site. And if somebody did that, what about the other half of the site, which is still in the multifamily overlay district zone? Well, if the units are maxed out, then you can't build any more units under the multifamily overlay district, but it would still be developable under the underlying zoning. So in this particular case, half the site would work out to about 8 units, eight single-family homes is what you're allowed to build in that underlying district. Keep in mind, that's not 8 more units. That's if I cut the district in half to the right size and would model out to exactly the 180 or 170 or whatever, and then this other half that's next to it would be buildable 8 units per district. So adopting this route doesn't end up making the site more developable. Doesn't end up with more total units that can be developed on it.
I can see where that would be an effective way to do it. My concern would be is the potential for appeal. If, let's say, half of it was developed on with 15 units per acre, the district was still there. People within that district could appeal to have the same, in other words, with lawsuits and stuff, they could appeal to have the same right as that the district was allowed. And that would be, my concern is, how do we prevent that? How do we prevent this board from coming in with a lot of people that would want to appeal that or get relief from that in the future? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I think the way you physically did it is works well, and it would be great to have a lower density of units spread out of the area, and I like that effect a lot. But I'm envisioning, if I owned some of the property that was in this district and it already had been capped out, do I still have a right? I mean, it's a legal question.
It is a legal question.
Would I still have the right to get the same kind of benefit? And that's the only caveat that I see with this. And we get appeals all the time. People want relief from something or other, and it's fairly hard to do.
In terms of the legality, this isn't my idea of a district maximum. The MBTA Communities Office, in its guidance, discusses district maximums. And in the compliance model, there is a place to enter when you're using a district maximum. So the people administering this law, and like I said, and I emailed with the head of the office there.
At the state level.
Find Nate there, yes.
Where this comes from.
Right, the MBTA Communities Act office, the ones who wrote the guidance.
Mhm.
This is what they meant and this is their intent, and they certainly feel confident that it can survive legal scrutiny. This is that this type of thing is is allowable, and that that those other property owners would not actually be in a legal position to do that. In addition to the legal point, there's the realities of the site. There's no half of this site that can be built out at 178 or 180 units. If there was, I would have come in with your district.
Yeah, I thought it had to do with the fact that
There's
the
so much.
topography
Yes,
does not really allow for this.
There's so much slope and all.
Yeah,
that-
right.
That
I don't think it's gonna be an issue.
Yeah, I think that, and the other reason that yes,
There would be some
because
really
It'd be so
expensive towns.
it
expensive.
won't be
It would
possible to build out half the slope. I don't think it's gonna be possible to run out of units on this site. I don't think it'll get up to 180.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it might be physically possible, but with some site work, but you're getting to the point where the site work to allow you to do, 3
economics of
townhouses
it,
there
yeah.
instead of a single family home is just not worth it.
Yeah,
And the other
this
reason I'm
may not be
recommending this,
buildable at all.
as I discussed in the memo, is we've been talking for a long time about the desirability of providing a second ramp for the singles and twos. This fits that perfectly. Of the idea of going down, keeping the same number of units, but the developer having the option where site conditions recommend to go down to singles and twos.
Oh, yeah.
And I can see the site actually being built out of diversity of housing types, singles and twos and multis all in
That's
a
what I'd
neighborhood
like to
together,
see.
which is good practice. And
Right.
it hasn't really been done
Yeah,
much anymore. So,
Mm.
I feel confident about this. I can go back and find what kind of a legal and get a legal opinion if that's the board's desire.
Just as a concept, if we allowed that, we might have an opportunity there to put a tiny home type of scenario in there as well within that district, which is something that
If
we've
it was
talked about.
something that could be
and-
affordable to,
Right,
for a developer to
and
do,
then it would count
the tiny
on the
homes there.
MBTA.
Just the excavating alone there.
That's what, I have a question, because
Mhm.
this was your draft document, I believe.
You're on the bylaw?
Yeah, and
Yep.
I just was looking at Adam's comments about, when you talk about two-family dwellings, and his comment says must be 3 or more units to qualify.
That's right. We discussed that at the last meeting.
Oh, did I miss that? Okay.
Yeah, and the principle there is I do allow he's just saying singles, ones and twos, that's not multifamily housing. Yeah.
Right.
We do allow multifamily housing in this.
Does it count towards, because he's saying it doesn't count towards the unit.
If we were only allowing singles and twos, no, it would not count towards the requirement. But in a district that
Okay.
allows singles, twos,
Oh, this
and
district
multis,
allows
Right.
it.
Okay,
Which
okay.
gives much
Doesn't
more
mandate it,
flexibility.
it allows it.
Okay,
and you can allow anything else you want to.
okay. Then I'm good.
I mean, the fact that they're pushing overlay districts for this means they want there to be other things that are
Yeah,
allowed
yeah,
there.
Okay.
So, okay. That is an important question.
Well, then, it sounds favorable to me.
So,
More in the direction of what we're trying to achieve.
yes, if we, okay, then that's good. Then I suggest that we move on to the bylaw. The bylaw was written with that in mind. With it in mind that there's gonna be a district max. So, is there anything else in my memo I need to go over? I don't believe so. I think I covered it all. All right, the second memo. I think it'd be useful to go through the memo. It lays out the changes in order, as opposed to having to go line by line by law. So, other than formatting, here are the changes. Okay, references to the outlying commercial district have been removed because we're now only drawing over our residence B.
Right.
Okay, the 50-foot setback from Fitchburg Road has been reduced to 20 feet. Okay,
Why?
because the 50-foot setback was written with District 1 in mind, where Fitchburg Road is a wide, straight, fairly high speed. There's very little development around there. It's a fairly high speed intensive location. There's nothing else that's built out there. There's very little that's built up there, and it is that far away. As opposed to this location, where Fitchburg Road is more winding, and there's already development there, which is there are already homes which are built closer than that 50 feet. So what I'm proposing is the bylaw has a 50-foot setback from the street and a 50-foot front yard setback for multifamily buildings. So, and if they did multifamily by the street, that would have to be 50-foot back. But if they put singles or twos, then those could be built at approximately the same distance that the existing buildings are already built up, setback from the street.
Yeah, but the existing buildings, I think are 25 feet. Or 20.
Okay. Okay, what is the pleasure of the board? Now, changing this from 20 to 25 feet, I could certainly be amenable to if that's the right number. I don't think the 50 is necessary, and I don't think it's all that desirable either, because it would, that part by the street where it's flat before it starts going out might be some of the.
Well, if it's, I feel content with 50 feet for a multi-story building.
Right.
Yeah, so do I.
And if that stays, then that's good.
Mhm.
The 20-foot setback, generally, I think it's been a policy in town, it's 25 feet. And so that the idea is automobiles aren't going to be over the property line. An automobile tends to run 18 feet. So that's pretty much why the
I
setback,
think 20 is too.
yeah.
No,
I would say 20, 25, not 20.
Okay,
You think 25 is better?
I do.
Yeah.
that's the setback from Fitchburg Road.
Close.
Okay.
On Fitchburg Road, right, it's too close.
Yeah,
So
so,
you want it 25.
I mean, my
What
truck's
would be
21
those,
feet long, so
Yeah.
be
I
sticking
mean,
out into the
it's-
road
I
if there
think
was a
really,
parking lot right
no,
there.
That's right, and then who knows, they may widen the road and they may put it's a state road.
ones he just built, how
They're
close are
driving
those to
faster,
the
so now the
road?
cars are
Say-
moving by
I
the
mean,
homes
Are they
faster,
set back?
and road
It's more
noise.
than 20.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because
because they've
there's
got the
not-
Like 50
driveway.
feet.
But they're so close to
They
the
are
road.
close.
Wow.
And
I
even if you
do
put a
know
car
at
in
one
the
time there was a
driveway,
study that brought
there's not a lot.
195
Go
right
to
up
where the house
Pittsburgh Road.
There's maybe 10, if the car was in the driveway there,
This-
okay, I'm picturing it.
Yeah.
The car was in the driveway there, there's maybe 10 feet after.
Yeah, I'd like
It's
to go
not-
back
it's
further,
really-
yeah,
You know
yeah,
where
that's
the three,
the 55, the three do.
55 and over?
Yeah,
that's
108.
on
Close,
Pittsburgh,
look
yeah.
how close they
They
are.
are very close.
They're
And
very
what's the
close.
measurement there?
Well, it's the building. There was no requirement on the parking, all right?
But the parking's like horrible. I mean, I'd hate to be backing
Well,
out of there.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. They had 25 feet from the parking, from the building. They put the building 25 feet from the property line.
I just
And
think
that
it's too
they
only
need-
left
yeah.
that area to
I mean,
It
park.
needs to go back.
older houses you understand because they were just building stuff right next to the street, so they wouldn't have to build all the
Right.
material, the materials and the utilities and everything else, but it's really hazardous. It's not for, that was good for the horse and buggy, but
That Fitchburg road's a
Now-
horrible. They go
So
speed.
this house right here in the bottom left-hand corner,
it's
I
probably,
think a guy named George owns it. This isn't very scientific, but I Google mapped it and Google measured it, and that house is 33 feet.
That one's 33.
33.
This one right here.
this one?
Yeah,
The one on the right?
about
The big one?
33
Oh,
feet.
oh.
Yeah, bottom left.
It's more than that.
The bigger one on the left?
This one
It's more
says
than
it's
that. I
30.
know the house. There's more than that. Does it tell you that that's how many feet it is?
According to, yeah, Google measured
Google measure says it's 33 feet.
30.
It goes up a hill.
Maybe I'm in the wrong house.
George's
that's
house
it.
goes up a hill.
Yeah,
Oh, this is a different ridge line.
that is on a hill.
This can't be
Yeah,
George's
it's up a
house.
hill.
Yeah,
He's closer to 80 or 100 feet off the road.
he's gotta be 100 feet.
Oh, you know what? I think I'm on this house, which is like further, like
This
second
one
from
here?
that. I think I'm on that one,
Maybe.
actually.
Oh. Okay, so you're not.
So we'll
see all
scratch that.
this.
Don't mind my, my approximate
Oh.
measurement.
But if I go by those senior housings there, I go back at least 30 feet then, at least, because.
They're not, I don't think they are.
I know, but for this,
Mm.
I don't wanna be that
Only
close
50
to the
feet.
road. And
Personally.
then,
I don't think,
What's your existing front yard setback in the R
I
three?
think it's 25 feet.
yeah, but I'm talking about these houses where the driveways are like, so if you're living there, you're almost
Well,
forced to
see,
back out.
sometimes
I don't
it's
think-
deceptive.
I'll
The
tell
driveway
you,
would
it's
never
too
get
close to the road.
permitted for that,
I've been
right?
inside the house there and you can hear the traffic and somebody spending $500,000. It's really sad. It's
Well,
really sad.
the thing that people aren't
So
aware
that
of
one's George's.
is when they think of setbacks,
What is it?
they
That's
think
on
of
the
the
middle.
physical street.
Oh, yeah, they think of the edge of pavement.
Right. But that edge of pavement can be right on the property line, or it could be
Here's the other thing.
5, 10, 8.
15 feet away,
I
all
don't
right?
know.
Depending like how much the state owns, okay? I know on my personal property, which is right on the same road, my property line is like only 8
Five.
feet from the roadway.
The back,
Yeah.
funny only, somebody in the funny only.
50 feet also allows a developer to put some landscaping as a strip,
I
you know,
know.
to
Yeah.
separate the
Yeah.
road from the home. But 20 feet
Yeah.
isn't. You
So,
still have to apply for a driveway or a parking permit too, right? So.
Yeah,
I
because,
don't
you
think
know,
we've
that
ever-
Fitchburg Road is like a speedway some days, so
well,
I wouldn't have a long driveway space.
Well, if you want, you could do the minimum. The minimum is 25 feet. But if somebody wants to go back 50 or 100 or whatever, they can do whatever they want,
right,
right?
well,
It's only a minimum. It's not a mandatory.
Okay,
Wouldn't be smart for someone to do 25 feet.
No.
You can set it at 25
it
feet.
is a minimum right now in our bylaw.
So we can leave it as a minimum,
Okay,
but that doesn't mean that's what we recommend.
Right.
No, but you have
It'd be
to,
up to the developer.
a developer has to know what he's got to work with. So when you say a minimum,
So the developer makes up his mind.
It's true.
well,
He's got
it
it.
just
He has
tells
to-
him how much land area is buildable and for parking and everything else, but the key here, the key here is you establish a minimum, okay? And then you still have, the site plan still has to be reviewed. So you can bring up concerns about hazard and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So, but I really certainly feel it's gotta be at least 25 feet.
okay.
And we already have a lot of houses close to Old Fitchburg Road now, so. And then 50-foot, the 50-foot for a multi-story building is appropriate. And then you can have a good buffer screen, you know, so that it's, the visual impact won't be as dramatic.
And you need more parking around.
And we do have a scenic roads bylaw too.
Don't get me going on scenic roads. Okay,
That doesn't go in very far.
Doesn't, no.
So the way it's written is, so the way I have it written is, there is in the dimensional table for multifamily buildings, there is a 50-foot setback, front yard setback, and there is a 50-foot setback from the street. Okay, that, and
what's the
then,
difference?
uh,
You said front yard.
front- yeah, we got a
setback,
front-
and then street.
yeah, front, minimum setback from street and minimum front yard setback, some things are, sometimes there are corner lots. I'm being comprehensive.
Oh, okay,
Uh,
okay.
Yeah, it covers
Understood.
both.
Although another thing is there, I only have a 20-foot rear yard setback for these multifamily buildings, but if the rear is along a street, now it's 50. because of that 50-foot
Oh, I
setback
know
from the
that.
street, so that's why that comes into play. That's why you do that.
Yeah,
So,
so you end up with less land if it's a corner lot. Or if you have but two on both sides.
for the multifamily, they've got a 50-foot setback from any street written into their dimensional standards. That'll apply to interior
Okay,
streets too and stuff.
Okay.
Then, over on, the next page after the dimensional table, there's a statement, all buildings shall be set back a minimum of 20 feet from Fitchburg Road. So I'll just change the number in that one.
Change that number to 25.
To 25?
Okay,
Okay,
Yeah.
25.
Minimum.
now I have a question. With the rear setback, as you said, it's 20 feet.
20 feet for, multifamilies.
We have to think about a private lot versus a condo. So if it's a condo, then the association owns the land, meaning they can put the units as close together as they may want. So in other words, you wouldn't have that. In other words, typically, if this is a property and this is another property, and they were both on opposite roads, you'd have 40 feet between buildings.
Their 20-foot setback plus their 20-foot setback.
Right, okay? So property one, property two.
Okay.
But if it's all one property, the buildings can be closer together,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Well, there still has, well,
Oh, so you're talking about separations between buildings when there's multiple buildings on a lot.
Right.
Okay, yeah, let me look what I've got here.
We need to get fire trucks and everything in the area.
yeah. I mean, he makes a good
Okay.
point,
Um,
so.
okay, so I don't have a maximum distance between buildings. There is number seven, interior roads and utilities shall provide, service functionally equivalent to that assured individual lots under the planning board subdivision rules and regulations. Okay, so in terms of your, providing fire access and everything.
Well, I just, a lot of site plans now we're getting very creative. And so there's a certain philosophy about having buildings share alleyways in the back.
Yep.
And so people can get their cars in the back of their buildings, and for service vehicles. So I wouldn't want to handicap a developer of using those kinds of things if we can make the housing better. And then we have to worry about fire trucks and stuff like that, but that always goes through our approval and site
In the
plan
site
anyway,
plan,
so
right.
that it's not really a concern. But I did want this board to understand type of property ownership can make a difference here in what we're talking about. And so I would not feel comfortable with two high-story buildings that are only 20 feet apart. So
Well, they
it
have to
may
have enough
be a separate
maneuver
thing that we have to
between
put in the
buildings.
bylaw.
For fire, if nothing else.
Well,
Fire trucks.
people don't know that, but any building within 20 feet from one another has to have a fire-rated roof on it. So 20 feet is not particularly a good situation. So I don't know.
What would be the minimum?
Well, I would
that?
say 30, but you've got things like shadow lines and everything that affect those units. You got one building here and one building here, and the sun puts the shadow on the other building. And I'm not trying to make it unrealistic, but 20 feet is not sufficient in my mind for the multifamily ones is adequate for the, 1-story or 2-story buildings. But when we start going 3 or 4 stories, and I think we have to have kind of a chart for that to explain it to developers, it'd probably be 30 to 40 feet.
Our maximum here is 3 stories and 35 feet, even for the multifamilies.
Okay,
35 maximum,
3 stories and 35 feet height.
okay.
okay?
We're not talking about tall buildings. Is 3 stories, it's not even 3.5 stories, it's 3 stories. Does this concern that you raised, is that still in play if we're talking about 3
30
stories?
feet between 3 stories.
I
What if you had to do something,
don't think the shadow line would have that much of an effect.
get your ladders up?
I
and all
do
that
think
stuff,
that
you had to do some.
The fire
I know
rating,
when you think about
And
fire,
water.
you're worried about. like,
even though that's a
collapse and
bylaw,
that.
people
So that's
replace
why you're
roofs and they
far away
don't
you
even
want to
think
stage,
that they
because
need
you're
a
worried
class
that
A
if
shingle
it is
there.
compromised, you don't want your
I,
trucks and your
I'm in
people to
big
be
multi like that.
you wanna
It's
be
gonna
like,
get caught by
I believe
the,
it's-
by the building department.
the height
Well,
and a half.
Don't wanna
away.
put a hazard there because
Yeah.
it will go.
Yeah.
So is that
Um,
20 or is it 25?
Putting
guess
that
3 stories would
another
be
dimensional
30.
requirement like that could
Oh.
affect the
1.5.
compliance
I'm
model and
thinking
lower your
1.5
number of
stories.
units.
Mm.
So if
No,
it's
but
35 feet tall.
you were
1.5
oversized
of
anyway.
that.
Yeah, so
We're
it'd be-
over.
Right.
On units
So
anyway,
it
so we
should
could
not
lose a
be an
40.
issue.
It shouldn't be, because if
15
we,
plus
if I,
30,
if
45.
we
We
went
had a
down to
very
proper,
compressed
yeah,
lot, yeah.
if we had a right proper sized lot, that
Right.
would be a problem, but
Yeah.
it shouldn't be a problem here.
No,
I could, hey, if.
50 feet.
we have to add that language, okay? Where two
multis.
multifamily buildings abut or are adjacent to one another, they have to be 30 feet apart.
If they're 3 stories tall.
I think
I
we
think
just
they have
figured
to
out
be
they have to
bigger.
be greater
They
than
have to
that
be
for
50.
fire.
The
What have to
fire
be
50 feet.
50 feet away.
Do,
3-story buildings.
yeah, do keep, in mind- yeah, it's 3-story buildings.
What I was sharing with Lori, being on the fire department, what I think our rule of thumb is, and maybe it needs to be checked, but the building height plus a half of the building height, because you're thinking about when the building, potentially if it's compromised and it collapses,
So
it doesn't just
4.5
collapse at
stories.
30 feet, if it's 30 feet tall.
Right, it spreads out.
It spreads out, and the rule of thumb is building height plus a half. So if it's 30 feet
50
high,
feet.
and then you add 15 feet on top of it, so it'd be 45 feet.
Rather than specifying a number, why don't we put some language in there as just, I mean, doesn't any developer take that in consideration? The safety,
Not unless you force them to, yeah.
Well, there's safety issues in the site plan review.
right?
So that would come up. And if they have not addressed, if they're doing multi-buildings that are multi-level, they need to address that.
I can tell you that in communities that have this type of development built on a regular basis and planned for it and have existing zoning districts that allow for these types of multifamily campuses, they don't generally have that rule, that dimension, distances between.
Are they public water?
Multifamily buildings.
There's no public water there. Well, unless they draw it from Pittsburgh Road.
There is, I think there is there. On
That's gonna
Pittsburgh
be
Road.
expensive. Yeah, there's water.
Yes.
Has nothing to do with the owner. Okay,
Yeah, so they're, because, and the reason for that is because these are going through special permanence or site plan review procedures where that can get caught.
yeah.
If we were talking about a subdivision, I'd say that a rule like that would be one that you'd put in your subdivision regs and not in your zoning, if you understand what I mean.
Mhm.
Because, and then you apply it and take it into account on, with, at the board's discretion on a case-by-case basis, as opposed to, zoning regulations are much more cookie cutter and tend not to. I would prefer to preserve the board's discretion rather than
Well,
a hard and fast number,
Right.
which can kind of handcuff both you and the
Right,
developer.
well, We can do this two ways. We can try to incorporate just in this district, or we can have a general bylaw across the town regarding multi-story buildings and the separation that's in a regular zoning bylaw. Would that be as effective? Without specific to the MBTA district?
Might not even be a zoning.
Hmm?
It might not even be a zoning bylaw. If it's something that would apply to like every building in town, it might be some other kind of protective ordinance.
There isn't that I can think of.
There's the town, the building code.
No, it becomes, no, the building code state.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would have to be under zoning. In zoning right now, we have requirements on setback, front yard, percentage of lot coverage and all that. So that's where I think there should be a separate bylaw for adjacent multifamily structures, requiring a distance between them. Now that can be put in specifically to just this one district. But if we're saying it's a safety issue, it probably should be wholesome for the entire community.
What do you think?
I'm just thinking, with our 3 acres, 2 acre zoning, I've never had it ever come up as an issue.
Right.
Well, we haven't had a lot of multifamily housing.
Right,
But
we haven't.
Development that we used to.
But we do have some now, and that gives you an idea of how far apart they are, okay? So the brick apartments down there,
They're more than 40, they're more than 50 feet
yeah,
apart.
they're like 60
So,
feet.
so is Turnpike, more
Yeah.
than 50 feet apart.
Yeah.
We don't have anything that,
I'd say they're like
I-
100 feet apart or so.
yeah, they are, well, I said more than 50.
Yeah.
So I think that this is more district specific
Hmm.
to the overlay and what you're allowed to build there. I don't think you're gonna find anything else in town like it, where they have built in the last 50
They
years.
haven't built a lot at all recently, and the prototypes that have been built here before are not that popular now, the types of structures they're doing.
Well, we haven't had apartment buildings, which are now condos. We haven't had that for 50 years. They haven't built them since 69, 70, and 71
I know,
in both areas that we have.
right,
Other than that, they've just been townhouse condos,
Hmm.
townhouse style. But I don't know how they would, when they do the multifamilies, I don't know if they're gonna do townhouse things or if they're gonna do
well, I don't
6-unit
think you can
buildings
base
or-
it on, you have to base it upon height of the building. Do you know what I mean? Not necessarily what building type it is.
Well, they're not gonna be any taller than Pine Ridge or
That's
Country
correct.
Estates.
Right, and so
Yeah, but
that's what
probably
we're talking
Even that
about,
is tall.
the
yeah.
space between two of them.
They're all 100 feet, closer to 100 feet.
I know, but that doesn't mean that somebody else will do that. Do you know what I mean? Just because somebody else put them 100 feet away, they probably did it because of the parking or the configuration of the lot,
Yeah,
or the
well,
most efficient way to
but
build them.
the
They do
same
a
thing will
copy of the site
happen
plan.
in this district. Somebody's gonna have to come up with a plan and it's still gonna have to meet the safety code.
I'm just bringing it up, guys.
Okay. I think it will come up again at any time there's a site plan that comes up.
And in addition, there's the state fire code.
Yeah.
Which if this type of building is this close, it needs this rating. And they've got pages and pages of that. Which they'll all be subjected, they automatically be subject to get their building permits. So I
Okay.
think between the two of those, that
We don't have to do anything.
I think preserving your discretion over that is what I need to make sure I'm doing.
Well, there's nothing specific in our bylaws now, right? That says that. No,
My only question was on the setback, so let's pretend I'm a developer, I wanna build a 3-story right here.
Okay, I get it.
Against this guy's lot.
Yep.
Is there a setback requirement from him?
All the front, side, rear yard setbacks in the dimensional table would
That
apply.
would be the back.
Well, it would depend on if you're, let me see, let's say if somebody put in a subdivision road like this and there are lots off of it, yes, that would be the back. But if it's a,
multi-family
let's say
project.
that there's a big multifamily campus back here and multiple
3-story
buildings
multifamily.
on it, I think those would generally be
20 feet
rear.
from his yard.
It would depend on lot lines.
I think, I think those would mostly count as rear.
Right.
Yes, this is, so the setbacks that
20
are
feet.
in this bylaw from the abutters are the same as the internal setbacks.
That's correct.
So like if somebody's building a,
No, it's not specific
Multi-family.
internal.
right, it's not specifically internal. So if somebody's building the small lot single and 2 families, they need to, they've got a 20-foot rear yard setback and a 10-foot side yard setback. And that would apply to their neighbors within this little development, but it would also apply the last guy who abuts, the abutting lot, his setback would be 10-foot side yard setback, 20-foot rear yard
But
setback.
isn't our side yard setback already 15 feet?
Yes,
Yes, this is, yeah.
Side yard 15.
Yeah, it is, I've got the 15 side yard here for the multifamilies, but remember, we have reduced front and side yard setbacks for the singles and 2s in order to make that feasible for developers to do that.
so if there's a 15, you're reducing it to 10, which means a total of 20 side.
Yes, it would be 2, for a single and 2 family homes, you'd need 10 and 10. For multifamilies, you'd need 15 and 15.
I mean, when site plans are reviewed, abutters.
I mean-
Yeah, exactly.
For our envisioned tiny home scenario, 10-foot side yard for 1 or 1.5 story building would not be an issue, I don't think, between.
Well, because then it's 20 feet, then it's actually 20. between the
Collectively,
two.
it'd be 20 feet.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not bad on a small,
No, I think our
But-
current zone bylaw is 15 feet
yeah, for a single
for a
family
single
home.
family home. So the only question comes is the distinction between freestanding single units versus higher rise 3-story units. And the question is the distance apart and the distance they should be from a setback. Right? So
One thing I
there's
wanna
still
point
gonna
out-
be a side yard setback. And there's still gonna be a rear yard setback, which you would assume would be greater for a 3-story building than it would for what you'd have for even a tiny home or a mini
And you have
home.
to have more parking too.
Well,
More
that
open
isn't the
space.
case, that isn't the case in your current zoning, though. You've got the 3-story 35 is, I think I took that from your existing zoning. That's the dimension is the same for singles and 2s and for multifamilies. We have the
Right.
same height limit. So when we're talking about about the multifamilies, they're not higher than the singles or 2s in this zoning district.
Mm.
So as we're talking about abutting the you know, the neighbors,
Mhm.
you know, outside of the district. Keep in mind that the multis aren't gonna be any taller. We're not zoning for the multis to be any taller than the singles and the twos.
They look
They're
taller,
denser.
but they're not.
Because they're because they'll probably be
No,
more square
rather
rather
flat
than
roof buildings.
Well, they're,
All right,
having a buff, you
I
know,
don't think they're
there is,
little.
I was just working on some commercial mixed use zoning in Leominster. And they got a special buffer where it abuts a residential district. You have a wider buffer than the other setbacks. Once again, where we have the where we're going with this oversized lot.
Yeah.
We could afford to
This is
impose a
Leominster.
buffer all the way around if you wanted to, and we'd still make the units.
A little,
Make the abutters happy.
Okay, what are we thinking for that buffer? The tallest buildings are 35 feet. Wanna call the buffer 35 feet? Wanna call the buffer 40 feet?
are we? If the tallest building is 35 feet, which a single family home could do right now. So what's our current setback? I think our current setback is 15 feet from property line. And the rear setback is 20?
Yeah,
20.
I think so. I think I took these right from there.
Oh,
One question, first question.
Hmm?
Do you want to have this apply to singles and twos? Have to be outside, need this much of a buffer, or is it just multifamily? Where the multifamily building is next to the edge of the
Well,
district?
I think reducing the setback if we're trying to do a tiny home opportunity makes sense for single family units, okay? When we get multifamily or 3-level units, then I think we want to increase that. So, in other words, we have a standard now, which is for a regular single home, and everybody's accustomed to it. So if this board or if this community decides that they want to encourage a tiny home kind of situation, then the size of the lot will be reduced and the percentage of lot would all be reduced and the parking requirement would be reduced for that function. Okay, so now we have, so that would, in my mind, be an opportunity here to incorporate that kind of housing, all right, the mini home housing. Or, so reducing the side and setback, the rear and setback on those would be favorable. Not the front setback, but the rear and side. And 10 feet and 20 feet make sense on that. Then when we have multi-level buildings, which we assume are going to be triplexes, you know, or 3 units apiece, but we don't know. Those buildings that are, you know, 2 or more levels high, would have a greater setback than our regular single-family home would have. So our regular single-family home right now is 15 on the side yard, and rear yard, I think it's 20 or 25. I think it's 20. So you might want to increase those for a 3-story structure.
And not to be jumping around, what I heard Joe last say was talking about putting a buffer.
Yes, a buffer, so the language would be something like, all multifamily buildings No multifamily building shall be built closer than 35 feet to the district boundary.
Oh, okay,
I just plop that here in
Yeah,
this list.
Okay.
okay,
You like that?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
3.5, look at this one.
Those are multifamily structures, you said.
Right, yes, and this is a choice for you to make. What I said was multifamilies, and that rule wouldn't apply to singles and twos. Singles and twos would just have their setbacks from this chart that they have to
Right.
follow.
okay,
I would recommend doing that, make the singles and twos a little bit more
Yeah.
appealing.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, so, all multifamily buildings.
What else do we need to address tonight? Because we've got a few other things on the agenda here, and this was not supposed to be a long meeting.
As much as you want, I'd like to get through, the rest of the changes I made to these, make sure you're okay. on this.
Okay, so-
And then that should pretty much be it, unless any of you saw something in the bylaw that you wanted to bring up.
Okay, so why don't we just go through what
Okay.
you wanted to get done tonight?
All right, so let's see here, okay, we took care of number 2, the 50% setback. Number 3, a district maximum of 180 units has been added. Where did I put that?
But that has been stated.
D2, housing allowed by right under D. 1, in addition to all other uses allowed by right in underlying zoning districts, apartments, multifamily buildings, 2-family dwellings, and single-family dwellings are allowed as of right in the MFOD. 2, a maximum of 180 residential units may be constructed in the MFOD under the provisions of this section 145-54.2. Property owners in the MFOD retain the right to develop their property in accordance with the underlying zoning.
Right.
Okay, we can't, even if you run out of the units in the district, we can't leave
Okay.
anybody with no development potential.
Right,
All right, the site plan approval section has been moved out of the MFOD chapter and into its own section. If you remember, we discussed
Yeah, we did.
the moving parts last time. Let's see. The purpose has been rewritten to make it clear that the production of multifamily housing itself, rather than any additional conditions placed on the housing, is being done to achieve the defined purposes. Remember this discussion last time? Your attorney had some questions, make it sound like mentioning achieving all of these environmental goals and stuff like, oh, if we put
The
regulations on
wellness thing that I discussed.
Yeah, so.
Can we
so
get
it's
that
being-
in here, or does it have to be here, or could it be in the general bylaw?
It's good to have a purpose statement, and this one here, if you just want to look, it's A. Purpose of the MFOD is to allow multifamily housing as of right in accordance with section 3A. This zoning allows for as of right multifamily housing to encourage the production of a variety of housing types in order to provide equal access for new people to new housing for people with variety of needs and income levels, benefit from energy efficiency advantages of multifamily housing, support and encourage further public investment in public transit and pedestrian bike friendly infrastructure. Does that last part get to the wellness issues you were talking?
No.
Okay, what would you like? What are we talking about?
Well, wellness, in terms of, it's got to do with mental wellness primarily and health. So, and when we talk about those things, when you have, I would like to see any dwelling unit have outdoor access. Okay.
Oh, okay, this is
Yeah.
just the purpose statement though.
A
The
purpose?
purpose statement to why you're adopting an MFOD.
Okay.
Because
And to
we're
promote
made to.
wellness.
Okay. Okay, I can do that. I can add a wellness statement. You think, because, I would agree that diversifying your housing stock helps promote wellness.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And then there are other kinds
Okay.
of things that
Sure.
support that,
So
but keeping it
next-
general.
Sure.
Yeah, Yeah. All right, and the last one, I've taken out the affordability section
Good.
and references to it in other parts of the document, such as in the statements about
Right,
phasing.
so there's no affordability.
There's no affordability element to this anymore. Okay, so those are the changes I made to the bylaw. If you don't have anything else in the bylaw, then that finishes that, and that brings me to my one last point.
Okay.
I got one question.
Yes,
On page 7, it says
Yes.
the minimum setback distance for freestanding accessory building shall be 5 feet from all lot lines.
yeah, accessory buildings.
Does that also include, for example, if a developer had a single family unit and that owner wanted to put in an ADU, is that considered an accessory
No,
building or is that?
Yes, a separate ADU is considered an accessory building.
it's all allowed now by right,
Right,
but I think they were talking about,
just 5 feet more or less.
those are like for sheds and.
Right,
stores.
sheds,
Yes.
sheds.
Yeah, that's an
Accessory
accessory
building
building.
with the 5-foot buffer is
Right.
a shed.
Got
It's
it.
not a
It's
unit.
not a unit, it's
It's
not
not
an
a living
apartment,
unit.
it's not
They're
a
different
two-car
things.
garage.
Yeah.
No,
Well, garages and and now under the new law, accessory dwelling units in a separate building are accessory structures. They're accessory structures to the main structure on the lot, and this bylaw would apply to them. That setback would apply to them.
Wait a minute, they,
maybe in that district,
No,
but that is not what a
This is a
5-foot buffer is.
no,
It's only for a shed in Townsend.
Yeah, yes, yeah, right. Remember, this is being drawn, this bylaw is envisioning a different type of neighborhood than the large lot, single family neighborhoods that
Right.
exist in towns.
So that's just for this district.
Yeah, that's the rule in this district. And you are looking at,
Page 7, number 2. Page 7, number 2.
yeah, the minimum, yes, yeah, this is within this bylaw, the minimum setback distance for freestanding accessory buildings shall be 5 feet from all lot lines.
Yeah,
which is fun.
another structure. In how this is, unless it's one of the singles,
Yeah, I can't imagine there being, you can only have an accessory dwelling unit on a lot with a single family home. You
yeah,
can't have an ADU with a 2-family, you can't have it on the multi.
Okay.
So yes, is somebody in a single family home on a small lot in this district, would be allowed to have an accessory dwelling unit like every other single family
Right.
homeowner.
That's right.
This rule about it needing to be no closer than 5 feet to the sideline would still apply. And boy, that would actually
No,
make
that
it, if
wouldn't.
somebody did a real
Okay.
small lot like we're allowing here, a single family home, that would make it awfully hard to even be able to put an accessory dwelling unit on them, but that's up to them.
yeah, and then it's a site plan review.
Well, accessory dwelling units don't have to physically be a horizontal addition, they can
Right,
be a
they
vertical
can be,
one, right?
right,
Or basement.
Or a below grade
entirely
one.
within-
yeah,
So
Or
we wanna
entirely
be
within.
sure that it's very understood and clear what we're defining. These are accessory dwelling units. Okay, versus accessory structures.
An accessory dwelling unit
Yes.
exists in an accessory structure.
Accessory structure would be like a tool shed or a
Yes.
trash shed or.
Or an accessory or a freestanding accessory dwelling unit.
It
An
does say
accessory
freestanding,
dwelling
you know?
unit was legally considered, if a separate structure containing an accessory dwelling unit is considered an accessory structure. It's not the main structure on the lot, the single family home is the principal structure on the lot. If there's an ADU, that second, in a separate building, that separate building is an accessory structure.
okay, I'm
This would apply to
going to, there's variances of opinions here, I'm going to ask the town council, give us his opinion.
Okay,
Yeah.
asking him whether this
Well, yeah, I
this
mean,
rule would apply
because there's a
to,
conflict of definition here, I think.
To an accessory apartment.
No.
That 5-foot buffer
Mhm.
could be an accessory apartment or dwelling, is what you're saying.
yes.
I don't believe that's true,
No.
not in town. I don't see how that's gonna happen. 5-foot buffer for us in town is a shed. It's not a dwelling. So I'm gonna ask the town councilor clarify that for us. If he tells me yes, it is an accessory dwelling, then I have to believe him.
Well, that's gonna be a big problem because
I don't see it being approved in a site plan review.
I just went through this with the building department. I wanted to put a shed on my barn.
Yeah, I know.
Okay? And poor Janet says, well, why does it have to connect? Because if you don't connect to your house, to my barn, then you don't need a permit.
For a
But,
shed.
yeah, so I wanted to attach it to my barn, so I had to go through the whole permitting process. Right, so it's understood in our town that, you know, you buy a plastic shed or a playhouse or
You put up
any of
that
these
they're not even
non-occupied
assessed.
spaces, you know, in uninhabited spaces is an accessory building, all right? And they surface in many forms. These, you know, people build pergolas and, you know, things
Okay, well,
along
I'm
this.
gonna ask the question.
Yeah,
and We'll get the
Okay.
answer.
yeah,
What, okay, I don't understand the implication. What would the answer to that question have to do with this bylaw? Would I
because,
need to change something depending on what that answer was?
5-foot buffer can't be there.
it can't be an accessory structure, it has to be
It can't be
accessory
an
unit,
accessory unit.
an occupied building.
I think you'd have to change the change the
And
word
I
freestanding
would
accessory
want that
building to
clarified
whatever the right word is.
in the bylaw, so
I
people
don't
would
think-
understand.
Okay, what, if that came out, then there would then be no setback for accessory structures.
Oh, no, we have a setback, but it's not gonna be 5 feet.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying we're gonna disallow them, not at all. But it's not gonna be 5 feet.
Okay, so what you want to say, okay,
So what has to be specific here is accessory dwelling unit, not accessory structure. Okay,
Or you could put in the words occupied or unoccupied or something to that effect. to
habitable
differentiate.
space or something.
I
Yeah,
think
you
we
wanna
need-
just add
okay.
unoccupied?
I think that, I wouldn't want that to get you in trouble with the new ADU, needing to allow ADUs by right. I
We'll
think
allow that.
We're
Yeah,
allowing.
We're
yeah,
allowing
yeah,
it.
you just need to have a setback. I think that the way you're gonna want to do that is in the ADU, the new ADU bylaw that I'm going to be drawing up for you. As in the next project, we can put a setback, a 10-foot setback or whatever the town likes in that bylaw.
Okay,
Well, how do we fix this accessory structure language? Because this doesn't, that confuses everyone.
Or why don't you just put it as 10 feet? Instead of 5?
Yeah, so we could do that. The problem with that is now you're imposing that on sheds, detached garages, desirable things on these.
Okay,
that
then
might be
just
desirable in
have
a
the
single
5
building.
feet for an unoccupied structure. Unoccupied structure.
So,
And you can go 10 or 15 feet buffer for the ADU.
so if somebody wants to build a freestanding garage.
Does ADU state that you can't have any more than a 5-foot buffer?
No,
I'm asking Joe.
Not at this time. We are waiting for the state to come up with guidance and regulations on this ADU law, the same way they did on the MBTA law. And we think they're going to tell us what they consider to be
I think you
reasonable
said that
versus
the last
unreasonable
meeting.
regulations.
Okay.
yeah, that's not all defined.
In terms, in terms of this issue that you're bringing up, I think that you're due on to pass your MBTA bylaw at the end of 2025. I think that we'll get the ADU in place
Yeah,
before
you
that.
did tell us
So
that.
so we can take care of this in the ADU bylaw.
Okay,
Okay, I am gonna make myself a note about this, to make sure, to keep in mind that these two have a nexus.
okay. Was there anything else? Cause now we're way past where I wanted to be.
That's all I got.
Oh, yes, last thing I wanted to bring up. You still have a development rate limitation on the books,
We have what?
a development rate limitation.
Of
And-
what?
It is a certain number of building permits that you're able to
Issue
give
a
out.
year?
It was adopted in 2008 with a sunset of 4 years, so that's why you haven't heard of it. It's never come up because it.
No,
is-
I've heard of it.
But
We had a
it's-
moratorium on building.
Yeah, but it's it's not doing anything, because it's not in effect, but B, it's sitting there on your books as a potential time bomb. You might want to consider, including that repeal in one of these 3 zoning amendments that we're doing.
Okay.
Oh,
Nothing
yeah,
really, anything to
definitely
do
get
tonight.
rid of it.
Yeah, so, it's some,
We thought it was dead.
yeah, yeah, it's dead and you don't want it to come back to life. There was one town that went and they just changed the dates in it and, that's
Ooh,
like too easy, yeah.
That's, oh,
And they got in trouble for it and.
oh, I bet they would.
Just
You need a
by
town
advice,
vote to do that.
it would be good to take care of that. All right, so that's what I had tonight.
That's
Okay,
great.
great.
Thank you
Thank
very much.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, so I
You
feel
did a
like I
great
know what
job.
to do. You're okay, meeting of minds on the district, meeting of the minds on the bylaw with just a couple of minor amendments to it. I can get that together. And we can talk about a process. We can submit to the MBTA office for pre-approval. You have plenty of time to do that. They're gonna be hustling to get the commuter rail communities reviewed first because their deadline's sooner, so I don't know, something to think about for the
You mean
future.
when I have
We're not
Adam
under the gun.
Well, we had it under
Yes.
control, that's what
As
matters.
soon as you have your tweaks done, would you send them to Beth, please?
Yes,
Okay,
all right.
thank you very much.
Thank you,
I
Joe.
appreciate
That was
it.
great.
Okay, in the work session, what I really want to get to is 3.1, the ZBA mandatory referral application for a special permit at 3 Ryan Road for an ADU.
I reviewed it, it's just, accessory apartment,
It should
going,
be by right now, right? We're gonna approve it, but I mean, they really have a right to it,
yeah.
They will after January 1st.
yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you guys feel about it?
I don't think it needs any comments. I would just reply, no comment.
I wouldn't even make them go through the process.
I know.
That-
I would think as a board and planning and what we've seen and what's been going on,
Have them
that
show up
perhaps
and we'll
we,
just approve it. They're gonna be entitled to it anyway.
this is going before zoning, they have a hearing,
ZBA,
zoning
Wow.
board. This is for a referral from the planning board to the zoning board. On their hearing,
All right, so we don't have any opposition,
right,
right,
No comment.
I say no comment.
no comment.
you don't wanna say you support it?
We could say, we wish him well.
Yeah, I say we support it.
Let
That's
me put
fine,
it that, if I was in the assessor's hat, I would say we absolutely approve it means more income to the town.
There you go.
And since we're in the planning thing and we have a lack of housing, I would approve them doing it, so there's another housing unit.
Right.
I'm happy to defer to the chair's prerogative.
Yeah,
yep, me too.
me too.
Great.
Okay, then I will speak to Beth about
Okay.
writing a comment on that. But as long as you're okay with
Yes,
that realm of thinking,
yep,
I don't wanna be against it. 3.2, was there anything in there on the stormwater management application changes?
I mean, I reviewed them and I just had those
There's
couple
nothing for us.
comments that I gave to Beth already.
Oh, fine, okay. And then the master plan review goals specifically related to the flood plan. Jessica is helping with the master plan as far as implementation, so, how about we just take that up with her the
Okay.
next time? And Veronica, are you still with us? Maybe she just left us hanging at this.
I am still with you.
Okay. Did you have, we're on 3.4, discuss ways to increase incentives to develop affordable housing and future opportunities to meet with Townsend Housing Authority and Townsend Affordable Housing Trust. Did you have a comment for us?
Actually, I'm here to listen to your comments.
Oh,
I want to hear your thoughts. Aaron will be, we talked about it in the Affordable Housing Trust meeting. We aren't settled on anything yet. And we will eventually be requesting a meeting with you. So I wanted to hear what your thoughts were. That's why I've been waiting through that whole long.
I'm sorry.
We
Right.
I
apologize.
am so sorry.
That's okay.
We were not taking it up tonight.
What?
We're not getting any further with it tonight.
It's on your agenda though, isn't
I
it?
know it's on the agenda. But I mean, I think we're agreeable to meeting with you and the housing authority. But at this point in time, going through the, having the ADU go by right as of January 1st from the state, and not mandating affordable housing for them, you know, we're okay with
I am
that.
fine. I am fine with the ADUs being, I personally am fine with the ADUs being, not coupled with affordable housing. That's fine. What I want to know is what the planning board is going to do to help, since it's been removed from the MBTA communities, and that's a huge amount of housing. We have a target of 10% affordable housing in the state, but with our bylaws, all the zoning bylaws, because we only have a voluntary affordability clause in 145-48, there is absolutely no way that the town will, and that clause has never been invoked, ever. So at this point, there is no way at all for Townsend to meet the 10% affordability, none whatsoever. If we have, 340 houses or whatever, 180 houses built in MBTA communities and 10% of them are not affordable, where are we getting those other 18 or 34 houses in town when we don't even require in open space developments or any other development that homes be affordable? It has to be 40B. That's the only way that we get affordable housing in town. So I'm curious as to what the planning board, I was here to listen to your discussion, because I'm curious as to what you guys think is going to happen in town affordability wise if we never require affordability. It's not just going to drop from the heavens. I haven't seen it drop in 40 years. So what are your thoughts on this? That's what I was here to listen to.
Well, I can tell you, we've addressed this in conversation. And what we're finding out is the definition of affordability is based on a county-wide value.
Okay, I'm going to back you up. I'm going to stop you right there and say, yes, we're in the Boston, Cambridge, Quincy, whatever area. But go to Groton or Pepperell or Dunstable or Tingsboro or Westford. They are in the Lowell region. It's all based on, and it is less expensive. So where we are based on a medium income for a family of four of $130,000, in Groton, affordability is based family of four, $97,000. And what we've and I've been doing a lot of research on this, and I'm meeting tomorrow with others on this to see how we get our metropolitan statistical area changed. Because, and Joe from MRPC mentioned this last time, and I've spent a good amount of time over the past couple weeks trying to figure out, okay, how does this work? Why are we where we are, but Groton and Dunstable, and I have the whole median income chart
Understand.
for
Right.
even Westford is in the Lowell region with a 97,000. We
But
are
where is-
130. You don't want to, if you want to go to Groton, Westford, Dunstable, Pepperell, you don't want to come to Townsend. And we believe it's based on the railroad lines. So that has to be changed.
Yes.
But
No such
in the
thing.
meantime, we're where we are. And from what I can tell, the town as a whole is doing nothing to increase affordability in the town of Townsend. In other words, we talk a lot about it, you see it,
We
but
want it affordable for our citizens, that's why, and this value thing that comes from Middlesex County is not helping the people in our town get affordable.
okay, Robert, so we don't have any affordable housing in this town anymore. Even the 55 and over is listed at 480 now, unless they've dropped it. That's not affordable for those people like us with white hair who want to downsize from our big houses. That is not an affordable price. Yet we are putting 8 units on a 3-acre lot, and none of them are affordable. You only get one on a 3-acre lot in an RA or RB. You only get one. But if you're 55 and over, you can get 8. And I guess we thought, going by the Mongolian horde method of zoning, that if we put more units on a single lot, that the prices would be lower. And in fact, they're not. That hasn't worked.
Right.
And so we have to think about, and I accept that you guys pulled that out of the bylaw for MBTA communities, cool. But how are we getting affordability in Townsend? That is the question. Even the houses that are on the market now don't fit the 80% AMI for a family of 4, even with the Boston Quincy. That would have to be $335,000. And I challenge you to find a 3-bedroom house or even a 2-bedroom house in Townsend with a functioning septic that costs $335,000. 5 years ago, that was true. It's not true anymore, and it's not going to get better. So my opinion is we have to think about how we're doing it, even for our residents. That's my rant. But I wanted to hear what you guys had to say, and that's why I'm here.
Well, Veronica, everything you say is true, but nothing has changed because as time goes on, people's income has not increased the amount of the cost of living. Just to
I
pay their
agree,
bills,
but what has changed, Laurie, is the cost of houses in Townsend. You could buy a house in Timberley Park for 3 or 4 years ago for $250K, maybe 300 max, but you can't do that anymore. They're selling for 450 or 5, and that's what's changed, and that's why we need some plan for affordability that isn't 40B development.
Well, how are you going to decrease the cost of housing? What do you think?
You're not going to decrease it. You're going to find a way when something comes in that's building many units in a lot that typically would only allow for one, building unit. And, on a 2-acre or a 3-acre lot, if you are allowing 8 units there or 10 units, why can't one be affordable? And we do allow for that to happen with 145-48 in the zoning bylaws. But we have to make a little bit of wording changes to it because that's only for OSPDs and multifamilies. We have to add also for the 55 and over housing. And we have to make it not voluntary, but mandatory. And we have to change the 30% to 10% because the 30% is a little bit.
One question, Ronnie, is where are our surrounding towns in terms of Pepperell, in terms of Groton, Ashby, Lunenburg, Shirley,
They don't have
in
any.
terms of their 10%? Where are they?
I don't know their exact percentages, but I know that Groton right now is putting in a huge development where Deluxe used to be, the home office there of NEBS.
Yeah.
And a lot of that will be affordable. And that will increase their affordability greatly. They have been working. They have been working to get there.
I will
So
get a list for the next meeting, okay? Because I know that some of the towns are still at 0% or 1 or 2. We are ahead of some communities, and there are some.
Dunstable has they have 2 developments going in currently that are one is permitted and one is in the permitting process right there in the center of Dunstable. So
We have an incentive for some builder to come in and want to build. And
Pardon
what
me?
are the prices there? What are the prices going to be on those affordable units?
the affordable units, Dunstable is in the Lowell region. So it will be less than affordable unit in Townsend would be.
Well, I just thought it'd be interesting, if some communities are at over 10%, then we can look at their,
Their
some of the,
models.
yeah.
I'm gonna get that list for us to study first. And that will be what they're, what the other communities are doing, what percentage they're at, and how did they get there? Okay, because
That would be good. And then you guys can look at it and talk about it and see what the plan is for Townsend. Because
Okay.
doing nothing gets us nowhere. Yes, the Affordable Housing Trust we are actively working with MHP to put something up on our property in West Townsend. However, we are not building projects. In other words, it's not going to be 100% affordable. It's not going to be I wouldn't want a project where everything is affordable and it's, where the poor people go. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for a sane way to get affordability in Townsend.
thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your efforts, and I will get that list and we will have a discussion at our next meeting.
I won't be at your next meeting or the other one after that, but Aaron will be contacting you. I can't be at the next 2 meetings. So
We'll keep you
Aaron?
updated.
Aaron
Yeah.
Steffield, our housing administrator and grant writer for the town. She's
Oh.
in land use.
Oh, okay,
Aaron.
yeah.
So we've been having discussions at the Housing Trust meeting and those will
Okay.
continue. So,
All right.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay,
I'm tired.
so, the rest of the agenda just has the educational opportunities. So I don't think I have to list those.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll second it.
Okay, we are, all those in favor of adjourning at 8:39 PM.
Aye.
Bye.
Aye. Thank you all very much.